even to the optimum level. You'll be able to raise so much. Kenyans will willingly give, but not when you have 20, I think, how many items. You'll be hearing from Honorable Eugene Wamalwa on the number of some of those things. And then G to G. This story about Uganda, Davis, did you not think even within the framework of East African community, because whenever ministers of finance of the community present their estimates to Parliament, they do so actually on an agreed date. Therefore, in the spirit of regional integration, Uganda is a very important customer to Kenya. If I'm now hearing President Museveni saying, okay, he's going to borrow your G2G effort, but he's doing it with like a pained situation. Did you consult with Uganda before you went on your G2G arrangements? Those are some of my earlier my comments, and I think, I don't know.
Thank you. I have yeah.
Yeah, we'll hear Hassan Omar, and then we can hear Eugene.
Thank you.
To the contrary, Excellency, and Chirchir, I'm a big supporter of the G2G, but just with some minimum qualifications. I just wanted to know, I know that the payment is after the lapse of the 180 days through a staggered system. My question is, at what point does the G2G framework lapse? Now we have to pay the entire sum. And number two, are the prices hedged by any chance? Because yes, if today the prices are going up, there's a likelihood that they might also go down. I remember when I was sitting in the investigations on Kenya Airways, one of the things that was said to be fatal in the Mawingo plan or in the operations of Kenya Airways was hedging of the fuel prices. So the prices hedged. Number two, you might not have mentioned it directly, but you had mentioned it somewhere that there were very oppressive PPAs, power purchase agreements, that had been signed by certain producers of electricity. Is it time we bit a bullet and be able to bring some of them to either a close or to termination? And I know that sometimes the worry of governments is always the liabilities that come with that type of drastic action, particularly the fact that we have a very robust court and many investors look at Kenya.
Without interrupting you, Hassan, you're referring to independent power purchasers or producers, right?
Yeah, PPAs.
Because that issue is also, in fact, I wanted Bill Lokero also to deal with it, but please continue.
Yeah, so and then I overhear this whole issue about investment here, investment there, investment here. We are building this, we are building that. Will all these investments ultimately bring down the cost of electricity? There's a large allegation that the KPLC is owned by a certain mother of ourselves, and she sells this electricity very punitively to us. So I think if you might be able to address the supply chain, but in terms of now the demand, will you be able to enjoy more affordable electricity or cheap electricity? Hinga, the Excellency will tell you that I've been your biggest proponent here, very passionate about the housing agenda, because it's part of our social contract to give dignity to our people, and I heard you allude to it. You know, the irony is that in Kenya, as we create wealth, we must also bridge the gap to ensure that the dignity of the poor is improved. So we cannot just be saying that we wait for the economy to improve, and that's when we start to build houses. We must do both simultaneously or concurrently. But I just wanted you to clarify that this money is not actually for building houses. You're actually facilitating private investors to build these houses. All you're doing is to be able to do some bit of market risk, to take a part of the market risk, and number two, to structure affordable mortgages using the housing fund so that you can be able to have more Kenyans access these housing at affordable rates. Rugo, for you, I just had one question. I comment everybody agrees with you. And some of these opaque contracts are those like the Mawingo plan and the KQ. We are paying a certain bank. The Mawingo plan was designed to bring Kenya Airways down to benefit a few people. I think, what do you think is the sustainability of the government of Kenya? Why do you think Professor Ndung'u still has to pay for it when we know where the travesties were? We know who is benefiting. We know who the leader of that criminal enterprise is. Why are we still paying for the liabilities of a single person and a single individual? So I think I wanted to hear from you. What would you advise our government in these very important economic times to do? To keep Kenya always paying its debt, or to keep Kenyans a bit more engaged in terms of their day-to-day life issues? The last one, I think I don't have much of a question to Bill. I always read his comments, and to a large extent, I actually do agree with you. And that I, in particular, as much as I am a member of the Kenya Kwanza government, the KNTSC was a total fraud. It was supposed to be about market stabilization, and then the KNTSC ends up selling products more expensive than the market itself. So I'm hoping that an investigation will be done, and those responsible in distorting all these market prices and putting Kenyans into such loss will be taken to book. I think those are some of the kind of things we must stand for. But the last one, Professor Ndung'u, I think what I flagged in this whole discussion of the cost of living were two issues. Apart from our imports, is food and fuel. And fuel is tied to the dollar. And I really liked your idea about the nominal exchange rate in terms of having an automatic stabilization. But what we hear is that people are holding on to these dollars. There's no dollar deficiency in the market. I'm told by the economic team that there's $8.5 billion in the Kenyan market today. But because you have left the market take charge, so I can hold on to my dollars. I also have a few dollars these days. And I hold on to them because I know what was at 138 a few months ago is now even I take loans from friends on Kenya shillings. I know that as the dollar strengthens, I'll just liquidate my dollar account and pay them back. So what will you do? But they are not many, so it's not comfortable.
No, don't go back on it.
So
you have a few dollars, which is on the lower side.
Yes. So if I am thinking like that, what of others who have a larger cachet? So you've left it to the market stabilization, automatic stabilization, but then you're not doing much to ensure that those people with dollars put their dollars in the market, so that at least the rate of the dollar is mitigated. So as we leave it to that free flow, we must also make sure that we put in some minimum regulation to ensure that those with dollars are able to put them into the market, or to ensure that the rate is stabilized at a certain point.
Well, thank you. We gather that Bilo is requesting to be released by 2 o'clock. I think we can allow you when it comes to answering first. Yeah. But let us hear Eugene.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. I think to the CS National Treasury and CS Energy, we've been sitting here for, I think, over 70 days. But one of the most shocking revelations that was made before this committee was by the Control of Budget about a new phenomenon called budgeted corruption. Now that we have the National Treasury here, because she went on record, would like you to also go on record to clarify this issue that shocked us, that shocked the nation. And she gave an example of her own salary. And she said when she looked at what had been budgeted, it was 3 times. Yet what she gets is what is her actual salary. Therefore, there is something fishy at the National Treasury. There's some cooking going on there. I would like you, CS, to clarify this issue, because we know that corruption is one of the biggest, actually, challenges that the country is facing. It's estimated that almost 30% of our budget really is consumed by corruption. So if we are able to contain that issue of corruption, we've also heard from the experts the issue of the government overspending. If we're able to rein in those 2 issues, I think there will be enough money to ensure that Kenyans are not really overtaxed as they are. Would like you to guide us on that one. The other issue was also what has been referred to as the G2G. We were very concerned, and I think His Excellency Chair Kalonzo Musyoka has raised that issue. We've had concerns from our neighbors in Uganda about that G2G. There was some opaqueness to that deal. I would like to know from the CS Energy whether that framework agreement has been tabled in Parliament, whether it was. There has been some lack of transparency to the extent that our neighbors raised concerns, and I think they're making some serious decisions based on what is happening in Kenya. I got from President Museveni's comments, and this is what he said. If you look at his Twitter, that without my knowledge, our wonderful people who are buying these huge quantity of petroleum products from middlemen in Kenya. A whole country buying from middlemen in Kenya or anywhere else. It's amazing, but it's true. This is what is happening. Why not buy from refineries abroad and transport through Kenya and Tanzania, cutting the cost created by these middlemen? We would like to know from the CS, because we are told our Ugandan neighbors, who are our biggest trading partners actually, are considering, of course, engaging Tanzania and other alternative routes, which will also have serious impact. Please enlighten us on that. The other issue is the issue of housing. We know that PS Hinga has been very passionate. I was privileged to have served with him in the last regime, and it is true that this was one of the key pillars of the Big Four agenda of the Jubilee administration that we served together. But of course, we ran into headwinds. Kenyans raised concerns. Kenyans went to court. And at the time, we had COVID-19 and other challenges. We did decide, and as government, I think, to shelve it. We know that this regime is equally passionate about this housing issue. But of course, you cannot mourn louder than the bereaved. The bearer of the vision himself actually was able to stand down. Why can't you consider, given the current economic situation, the outcry of all Kenyans, from teachers to the policemen to, professionals, who are literally being forced to, pay for this housing issue? Many of them have taken out mortgages. We heard from the chair of Public Service Commission. They are taking home just about a third of their salaries. Many of them are going into depression. To add this housing levy on top of their very thin pay slips is the most oppressive thing under the prevailing economic situation. Why wouldn't you consider, as we did in the last regime, doing away with this for now? So that you don't have to do everything at once. As experts have said, you cannot load everything at once on this Kenyan who is already overtaxed. The other alternatives that we had, of course, the idea of job creation. There were those infrastructure developments. We did send money to the education sector, construction of classrooms, construction of, building of desks. This created local employment. We had the Kazi kwa Vijana, almost 2 billion monthly, putting money in the pockets of young people, creating employment. What we are saying is that you can still create these jobs without forcing this bitter pill of the housing levy on Kenyans at this time. Would you consider those alternatives? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Catherine. Let's hear Catherine.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Chair. I left something for the National Treasury. My point that you had referred to on the, I think we were expecting to hear from the CS National Treasury, because all the experts have said there are too many taxes and you need to review some. On fuel alone, as we heard from our earlier presenters, from road maintenance levy, petroleum development levy, petroleum regulatory levy, railway development levy, anti-adulteration, levy merchant shipping, levy import declaration, all this, plus VAT being doubled from 8 to 16. What Kenyans were expecting from you today is to know which of this you can realistically reduce, give them some relief in the short term, even as you're looking at the long term, and also the issue of the housing levy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Having listened to the team that is before us, you seem to have really explained so much about the cost of living. But what are the efforts the respective ministries and PSs are making to explain the issues of cost of living to the most affected grassroots Kenyans that live here? The country is burning with questions. Why are you not getting out, honestly, to give these answers that you have explained here to us? It is imperative that you move out as ministries, as PSs, to give these explanations to the country. What consideration, again, has been given to the impact of cost of living, especially on women and people living with disability, who bear the biggest burden when there is fuel and tax rises or tax increment? We would like also to hear that. What impact have you done? PS Hinga, thank you so much. You have explained so much. I've listened to you time and again. Almost got convinced. But PS Hinga, to what extent are women and even people living with disability included in the value chain of housing and manufacture in relation to the affordable housing? In the award of even your contracts or your